And I think we're ready to get started. And I want to say welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you here with us tonight, joining us from many different places. And we're so excited to have Bill Ratner here with us tonight. He's joining us from Los Angeles. I'm going to go ahead and come back a second. All right. And as I was saying, we have Bill joining us from Los Angeles. We're here in New York on Long Island, the Walt Whitman Birthplace Museum. And if you haven't had a chance to visit us yet, please do so whenever it's safe to travel and come be here in New York. We would love to have you join us. We reopened recently and we're open to visitors. And our museum is the home that Walt Whitman was born in 201 years ago. And it was built by his father. And we love sharing Walt Whitman's legacy with people, the story of his life, and we love sharing it with many different people. So we'll also be doing that online virtually very soon. So I also want to start every program by saying thank you so much to everyone who donates. We appreciate it so much. It means so much to us, especially during this difficult time. We're so happy to be able to have this type of online programming, to be sharing contemporary poets' voices every single week since the quarantine began. It's something we love doing, and we're so happy that there's such a great audience for that. And something as simple as $5, like you would spend on a cup of Starbucks coffee, actually helps us so much when you multiply it by all the people that join us each week. It means multitudes to us, really. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. And we're going to get started in just a moment. I just want to share a few other little events really quick, and then I'm going to introduce Bill Ratner. All right, so tonight we have this wonderful poetry reading. And then on Sunday, so this Sunday, we're going to have a tour of Huntington Village. And as I was saying, our museum is located in Huntington, New York. But Huntington Village is where Walt Whitman actually started the Long Islander newspaper. And a lot of other historical, very interesting things have gone on in Huntington Village. And we're going to have PhD candidate Andrew Rimby joining us, and he will be live in Huntington Village giving a tour of the whole area and sharing historical facts about Whitman and about other wonderful events that have gone on within the town. And the title is The Traveling Bachelor in Huntington Village, a Walt Whitman Walking Tour. So please consider joining us for that. And then on, let's see, Saturday the 17th, we have a writing and discussion series with our poet in residence, George Wallace, and it's called American Masters and Their Influences, Literary Realism. And it's about British writers and their influence on American writers and American filmmakers. So you'll be reading and watching films by American and British authors and filmmakers, and then there'll be a discussion each week for 6 weeks in the series. So please consider joining us for that. And last but not least, we will have a Van Gogh and Whitman inspired painting night, also on Saturday the 17th. And you'll learn to paint Starry Night while learning about the connection between Walt Whitman, poetry, and Van Gogh being inspired to paint Starry Night all the way in France. All right, so without further ado, I would like to get started. We still have people joining us. Thank you for joining us, everyone. All right, and so we're so happy to have Bill Ratner here with us tonight. We actually met him through Zoom. He joined us for a poetry open mic a few weeks ago, and of course we are so happy to welcome him back tonight for his own poetry reading with us. Bill Ratner is a Poets and Writers Readings and Workshop Grant recipient. His poems, essays, and stories are published in the Chiron Review, the Baltimore Review, Rattle Magazine's Rattlecast, Pleiades, KYSO Flash, South Florida Poetry Journal, Nixes Mate, Willawaw Journal, Missouri Review Audio, and other journals. His poetry chapbook, To Decorate a Casket, is forthcoming from Finishing Line Press in May of 2021. His performances are featured on National Public Radio's Good Food, The Business, and KCRW's Strangers, and he is a 9-time winner of the Moth Story Slams. Bill works as a voice actor. And I'm also going to share some links for Bill and also some links for our other upcoming events that I mentioned, but I'm very pleased to be introducing Bill Ratner. Thank you for being with us, Bill, and I'm going to give you the spotlight right now.
Thanks, Caitlin. So this is so great. I mean, I'm looking at faces of friends I've not seen in many months. Joel, Craig, John, Eleanor, Aleka. Anyway, thank you guys for coming. Thanks everybody for coming. And thanks for visiting Long Island. I feel like I'm right across the street, true story, from the Walt Whitman Mall, a big modern mall filled with the Gap and everything else, and a statue of Walt Whitman, behind which is the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association, where Caitlin works, which apparently sort of doesn't front on Mall Drive, so it's hard to see. And I discovered it by zooming around April 1st, looking for readings after everything was shut down. And did the open mic and then worked with 4 other poets and now today. So thank you. I got my eye on the clock, so I won't abuse the 40-minute privilege. I've been writing poetry for about 2.5, 3 years, seriously. I was a prose writer before that and thought I had a book deal about 5 years ago with a small publisher and thought, gee, I really need to spruce up my prose. I sound like I'm writing a letter to my Aunt Collie when I was 13 from camp, and got hooked. I'd read Walt Whitman, of course, in school and after that, and went to a Charles Bukowski reading in 1978. And now it's me, certainly not as well known as those two, but having fun. This first piece is called Men of Technology. This morning, I felt a craving for friends. I stare at disembodied heads vibrating at 60 cycles per second, give or take a local brownout. She's frozen, no, he's frozen, and all jowls droop a bit. I want in a real club, a clique, a clack of men heading toward the tree line, joking about Irish goats, coughing into elbows, nursing old bruises, chanting in Latin the names of ailing body parts, an organ recital before we swat a shuttlecock with boyish pride, allowing each other prayers with punchlines, an aura of pears and ivy, gold leaf and ingots of praise. A mutual awe, as if the first woman, pasty from sleep, the smell of her clean hands, flew into space under her own power, and were thankful for the spectacle and her good fortune. We drop our weapons, ammo dumped on the way in. We wrestle in imaginary rings with trumped-up foes. When we can see what's cooking, we taste fear, rage, the abysmal aquifer of old. We can only see so far. I've never heard a tyrant actually say, I was hated from the moment I was born. I'm losing my taste for horror. I'd rather read a good biography, let's say Mary Magdalene. It's the simple act of knowing I'm breathing, like a jerry-rigged fleshy bellows, a steampunk sky balloon that'll one day fall over the horizon. I'm looking for open arms, a shoulder, an act of will, to regulate or to build, like a radio that auto-seeks the next strongest signal. The truth is, in my daughter's Zoom yoga class, I had a vision of my father. Talk to me, I chanted. Imagine a savior propped up on a bolster, neck relaxed, speaking in a Tuscan dialect, reading Dante to me, theater of oral ghosts. I'm a bit starched collar, like a tenor in a church choir, the sound of host crackers crunching in my pocket. I dance in lederhosen, slapping the bottoms of my shoes in a Deutsche rhythm. Yes, there is such a thing. My internist, who I think thinks of himself as a mentalist, told me recently as I perched tall on his treadmill, "You are godlike." Or maybe he said Olympian. I don't remember adjectives when they're applied to me. No, he said, "You look like a Greek god." He's always fishing for business. I'm old. I lose weight and my breasts hang loose in their tit sacks. My hands are in decay, hands I once spread across my knee as if on display, proud of my blue moss veins, hands like my father's. I soak them in castor oil and shake them like a wet dog shakes its hide. My father taught me to eat marzipan caterpillars, moth sweetmeats, strawberry wrapped tansies with syrup fur. I'm willing to suffer the consequences, which I never remember anyway, before the next time, like a bad love. I am an angry virus of a man. There is a price, loss of balance, fainting, penitent prayers. It's been since Christmas when I ladled a spoon of frosting white to stratocumulus clouds across a cacao chip bundt cake with toasted maple glaze and a whisper of lemon. I'm acquainted with my father now only through photographs. In one, he wears an olive leaf crown. I don't much care for hats, but he looks sharp in a Homburg. Maybe he could be my savior. Keep me from sweet things and the thousand pills. Maybe my father was a Greek god. Quarantine ride. I want a limo for this. A huge stretch limo like the one Sinatra rode in, a black one, longer than a semi. I'll stick my head out the sunroof and breathe and sneeze from the pollen and smell Tommy's chili cheeseburgers and kimchi on 6th Street, deep-fried Snickers at the LA County Fair, runner's sweat, rubber on racing bikes at the Venice Pier, fried catfish and brine all in the air. I'll tap my lips so I know I'm there. Massage my jaws, ball up my hand and thump my thymus where the second button of my shirt touches my sternum, and leave this morning's slog dream behind. I'll rise like a pudgy bodhisattva levitating over his cushion. I'll ignore the placards of grief. I won't acknowledge death. I'll test my fear. I'll take vitamin C, maybe a whole gram a day. I'll float like a kite blown so high I'll see yogis performing asanas on the mountaintop. At 8 o'clock, it'll still be light out. I'll hear the sound of drums and whistles, incantations, grateful cries from people's windows. I'll finger the air and float back and forth in a sky blue sack like a Malibu seal. Sirens will go off in the desert for a sale at Costco. I'll buy Dexatrim and an apple-scented room freshener, grab free paper cups of sharp cheddar cubes and soy drinks. I won't be able to sleep. I'll go take in the poppies. We'll park right by sidewalks full of people in shorts and smiles, kids eating dreamsicles, laughs echoing through the crowd. I want all this in one huge breath. Driver, don't drop me off yet. Go around real slow one more time for one more look, one more breath, so I can remember. Max and Baina's quarantine wedding. To our favorite people, virtual ceremony, 11:30 a.m. San Antonio, zoomed to Shirati, Tanzania, where it's 9:30 p.m. for the bride's mother, father, brother, sister, and cousins, frosting cakes, chilling champagne, while the groom's father prepares his toast in Yorkshire, England. For 10 minutes, my monitor says, Max and Baina's wedding begins in 00:00. Then, on they come. A masked lady minister, Max and Baina unmasked under a chuppah, he with bristling blonde hair and a sky blue suit, she in satin and charmeuse highlighting her brown face. They kiss, flash their rings, and run at the camera. In San Antonio, a Tanzanian woman toasts, "Now that we've married these two Jews, we've got to stay together." Immigration policies notwithstanding. A grid of thumbnail faces in Hartford, St. Paul, Boulder, San Fernando, laughing, raising glasses. In Sharati, a wedding cake appears. The bride's mother in a starched white turban and red sequin dress toasts the bride and groom in Swahili. In Yorkshire, the groom's father stands grainy before his iPad camera in a dashiki and British tweeds and spools out his love and admiration for his son and his new daughter-in-law. Champagne in Baltimore, brie and crackers in Echo Park. All at once, 60 of us or more want a piece of the blinding cake held aloft by the bride's parents in Sharati. Then comes the playlist, Burna Boy, Mano Dibango, Fela Kuti. The screen explodes with shaking hips, waving fingers in solo living rooms, each person whirling in a pinned video dance close-up. And I start to cry. Not a sad cry, but a happy one. My daughter texts me, "Dad, I'm so glad you and I process our feelings the same way. We cry." My wife puts her hand on my shoulder and dances. This next one is as close as I'll ever come to writing a public service announcement. Night pictures. When you spend the night watching your smart TV, what happens to the eyes? The ability to change the brain's functionality can involve almost any muscle, face shape, head mapping, withdrawal from family and friends. Every evening, my television gives me a good grasp of myself, promises to help me catch a mate, someone they think is appropriate, individually wrapped. I will wait all night. I've never seen tech so good. I love the ads, skin repair, visions of heaven. Children love it. Mr. Whippy soft serve types meowing and talking, crouched behind a projectile. While we watch, human anatomy decreases. This can occur at any age. Vivid dreams during daytime naps, other types of fetishes. Some behaviors are biologically influenced. Try to limit the amount of noise. Your body may not be ready for more. My refrigerator in 11th grade, after the great Tom Lux. I told my mother, "I'm bored with your breakfasts." I could hear her heart topple. "But what do you want?" she said, disguising a sniffle. "Something different," I said. Soon, our refrigerator transformed, as if being made ready for an ocean crossing, a rocket launch, a war. The cheese drawer crammed with squares of plastic-wrapped Limburger, Gouda, goat gorgonzola. The meat drawer stuffed with lamb kidneys, beef brains, elk meat, tongue. English breads piled like slabs of exotic lumber. Eggs the color of the ocean floor, the size of fists. Her fry pan gurgled with creamery butter and extra virgin olive oil. "Voila," she said, spooning out chunks and strings and morsels. "Good," I said, dabbing my chin with my napkin. "Tastes like chicken." This is called Photomatic, based on a photograph of my father, a Photomatic, taken probably, I'm guessing, in 1929. Photomatic. On my shelf, I keep an arcade booth gum print photo of my father. The photographic fixer has faded. Burnt clouds and chemical bubbles float across his face, framed in pot metal. Thinking I can clear the dust, I smear his face with spit. My saliva eats into the paper, makes his nose softer, paler, more bulbous. His tie and stripes, eyes purpled, maybe a grad school paper due in the morning. His ears match mine. I'll always be his son. The way I pull on my Oxford, shave my face, voice goes down at the end of a phrase. Next to him, in a blackened oval frame, sits a matching coin-in-the-slot Photomatic image of my mother. Lips processed pink, necklace rose gold. They livened black and white like that back then. She stares off into a darkened studio. And, in a rusted tin frame like my parents', one of me, at 14, dark suit, dark shirt, dark tie, like Jack Machine Gun McGurn. Don't know if it's a cigarette in my mouth or just a smudge on the Kodachrome. I hold the three of us like a nervous child, afraid I'll use up the mood, and carefully arrange us again by the bookend. Whenever I watch poets, whether on Zoom, which is a bit more like being a voyeur, or at an old-fashioned live poetry reading, which I predict will be back in October 2021, I always, either at a storytelling event or a poetry reading, watching the presenter, I have to, I'm still learning how to separate the words from the person. This is a poem called Empathy. I do this thing lately with how I see a person. I imagine what I'd find if I peeled back their face, behind their mouth, behind their eyes, bone, gristle, fear, need, the ability to love. They are not the enemy. COVID present tense. During COVID, the sunsets are apricot orange. During COVID, masked people look like ducks with paper faces. During COVID, when I see unmasked people, I want to adjust them. During COVID, I miss the free cheese demos at Costco. During COVID, I Swiffer the hall and reuse vacuum bags, get in there with my fingers, pull out the cat hair. During COVID, I remember Allen Ginsberg singing, "The cockroaches will survive." During COVID, I call the only nurse I know and ask how things are going. She's busy delivering babies at Long Beach Memorial. During COVID, I hate Donald Trump way more than before. During COVID, I'm thinner. No cochinita pibil at Taco Spot or tuna melts at Astro Restaurant. During COVID, an online yoga teacher instructs me, slip your mind into the shoe of your body. During COVID, I keep stacks of unread books by my bed like dandelions on an unmowed lawn. During COVID, the sunsets are still apricot orange. Sometime in the future when I say during COVID, I hope what follows is in the past tense. It's almost time. A casket display window, patina of tire dust and soot, a promise of an afterlife, in Gemini monarch blue, night silver, last summer pietà, or forest green. Casket fanciers scorn the flames of the crematory, which turns flesh to bony sand. Like a drug deal, with a spoon, I mixed ashes of Grandma Sophie and Grandpa Jack into skeleton capsules. Hers from Brooklyn, a roadway gray, his from San Clemente, a beachy sienna brown. I showered them from the Pont Neuf on the Seine, the Japanese bridge over Monet's water lily pond, a dock at Saint-Tropez where Sophie had worshipped the light as her heroes before her. A breeze blew some on my shoe. I tapped Jack and Sophie into the sea. In the chapel at Rosedale Cemetery by the Joliet limestone gate, my Uncle Gerald's muffled cry, I ordered her casket closed. The funeral director, crestfallen, was proud of his work. My Aunt Eunice, vain as the sky is wide, slathered in rouge tint powder. I loved her Sanka and cigarettes, Marshall Field's Frango mints. I had never touched the dead. I reached for her. Her ebony folded fingers chilled. My hand now smeared with foundation glow tint. Tut, tut, the director clucked. When my Uncle Gerald's turn finally came, he lay on quilted tufted velvet, a life-sized Uncle Gerald doll. Cleaned, filled, hair brushed, eyes glued shut, dressed in his black Oxfords, shirt, tie, navy blue gabardine suit. his face sculpted in an expression resembling a grin. "It's almost time," the funeral director checked his watch. "Would you like me to close the casket now?" He gestured at the double door as a sign for me to exit. He put his hands on my uncle's head, and with a bit of effort, as if moving a love-seat sofa, shoved my uncle down in and closed the lid of the English willow coffin designed to degrade rapidly in the soil. This next poem is called How to Diet, and it's to be sung to the melody of Born Under a Bad Sign by Booker T. Jones and William Bell. I want a butterfat-soaked powdered sugar glazed salted caramel cruller, but I don't need it. The benefits I will experience by turning the cruller away. A west-facing moonrise that dwarfs everything cheddar yellow. A morning on which police and the White House do unto others as they would be done unto. A day when rocket launchers emit the sound of the Queen of Clubs close-pinned to the spokes of my bicycle. A closet full of shoes like my father's, all polished with Meltonian and Kiwi sports shoe whitener. An evening when I smoke old gold spins like my mother and do not die. A library trimmed in oak where no one studies war no more. I will make my own heaven, or at least the opening curtain with the white light. And my mother's thin hand, my father's sallow cheek, my brother's turned up blue jean cuffs, family hour, the last rattle. I want a butterfat-soaked powdered sugar glazed salted caramel cruller, but I don't need it. The benefits I will experience by turning the cruller away, maybe another day. This poem, What Kind of Boy, is based on a poem written about 100 years ago by Irene Rutherford McLeod called Lone Dog. You're a smart boy, my mother said. Smart enough to know better, my father said. Smarten up, my brother said, like there was somewhere else to be. I wanted to be a fast boy, tough boy, slick boy, hair all up in butch wax, duck's ass on the back of my head. They weren't around long enough to see whatever boy I would become. Sky boy, sly boy, staggering boy, falling boy. You could be head boy, my Aunt Eunice said. Head boy's a jock boy, popular boy, teacher's boy. I am not that boy. I didn't trust her after that. I'm more of a gravel road boy, daffodils boy, running down a portage trail, barbed wire scar by my left eye, survival boy. I find fresh money leaking from tall buildings, treasure boy. Piss 410 feet off the J.L. Hudson building Friday night, open till 9, fountain boy, raining boy. I toss Welch's grape juice bottles out my Aunt Eunice's 29-story window, whole long, airy seconds to hear the glass shatter on the flagstones. Heedless boy. Star Tribune old-timers slam their news copy on the spike and cry out, boy! One of us comes running. Errand boy. The world allows a dependable boy. I got here on my own. This is an elegy to my dear no longer living friend, Dr. Larry Brooks. Accidental Elegy. A man killed my friend Larry with an expensive car. Hurtling through the air, his sallow skin a bloodstone, Larry had just enough time to ask before he landed, am I actually going to die? I squeeze my eyes shut so hard they pull into my skull, hold my breath like on a tilt-a-whirl, and believe he'll be standing, taking a drag on a Marlboro Red, arm hooked around a lamppost, slacks draped on him like a desert dune. In Glendale, eating enchiladas in an outdoor booth, families walking by, checking out our food and drinks. Larry and I traded poems, sipping strawberry mango margaritas, surprised that between gulps we sounded pretty good. Now there is only pavement, Larry is prone and silent, his pink-veined, curious eyes empty. His funeral is next month on Zoom. There won't be anyone to touch. Anomaly. You have an anomaly, my doctor says. Yeah, me and 8 billion others. Maybe I've eaten too many dreamsicles. As a kid, I'd tear down 46th Street to Bill Waters' grocery and my brother Schwinn, hand over my dime, and luxuriate in the gentle melt on my tongue of coconut, honey, and orange. I do occasionally feel faint. I've set an age for my death. I hope the math holds. If I could, I'd ask my mother, how did it feel when you were in the process of disappearing? In her last days, from a bolt of red cloth, she made a new shirt for my teddy bear cowboy, and a sack for my marbles with a drawstring made of twine. Last spring, I dreamed she came back and wanted to see me. Then I realized I'd have to tell her it had been hard for me to do without her. What did you have for breakfast, my doctor asks. A wide, round slab of Canadian bacon that covered my plate, and right in the middle, instead of a streak of fat or hash marks on the flesh, my mother's eye, wide open, like a bandit, a steady gaze, hooded, like a gray fox might regard you if her children were nearby. What does my anomaly look like, I ask. You mean after you get hit by the bus, my doctor says. I fired him. No showdown or anything, I just didn't show up for my next appointment. I started taking drops named Nerve. That about says it. I went back to my doctor. What does my anomaly look like? I asked. You have 2 arteries where there should be 3, he said. 2 out of 3. Look on the sunny side. The meeting place between psyche and matter. Milk and Hyacinth, dedicated to my daughter Miranda Ratner, who is with us on Zoom today. Milk and Hyacinth. I was taught yoga by a man in clingy cottons and sneakers, the salt scent of the asanas. Today, my teacher is jeweled, winnowed, a palimpsest. She strides like flying, with the grace of an Echo Park dove, aiming, calling softly, slowing hearts. Sure weather, her voice in petals, rhythm, history. Gravity works well with her. To mirror, to keep left from right, she describes milk and hyacinth, Tadasana, Trikonasana. She aids our breath, our speed, our strength. She leaves no one behind. With her this day, I witness perfection of us, the practice of body magic, since before she could sit. She is she and not of me. She in yoga grace is my daughter, my child, my master. Keep your eye on the ball. I was 5. My brother was 10. My dad smacked a hard ball right at me. I flinched and winced. I didn't even try to catch the freaking thing. I thought, this is big boy, big man baseball bat stuff. Hard as dead cork. Where's my place in this? Keep your eye on the ball, my dad shouts. I stand there holding my Uncle Jerry's old Chicago mitt oiled with neat's foot nearly to extinction. I won't cry. I know how to be a blur, a shadow, how to mock it up. I watch like a study hall monitor. My dad loves me more, but he's playing for my brother, always trying to catch up on their thing, which is erratic. There's a generosity to my dad, an anger to my brother, and me, a sleight of hand. My dad bunts with a Louisville slugger, 32 ounces of hickory, bonk goes the hardball, careening off our soft-pocked lawn. Maybe my mom will bake something that'll stop this nonsense. Mother and father. Mother was a woman with a house on her head, weighed down by the walls and roof, a constitution like a sculpture, marbled, lithe, naked from the thighs down. She had small feet. Father recorded his thoughts in tiny leather notebooks. Smug, self-identified, he told me, making you with your mother was like learning to tie a bow tie. He was impatient and a little sad. With your mother, I was like Pierrot ministering unto the queen. I preferred a woman with a sparrow between her thighs, a woman agleam, a woman more like her photographs. He said of her, I loved her then. I miss her when I can. For you cat lovers, this is a poem that one day got published. The next day I was meeting with a wonderful poet here in LA who said to me out of nowhere, whatever you do, don't write cat poems, please. I kept it to myself that my cat poem had just gotten published. Emily. Emily the cat, sitting on a tractor beam, turns her calico head to face me. She's nearly gone. I cry for her as for my mother. When my mother died, I asked my father, what happens in a crematorium? Picturing her in a sun-yellow nightgown, lying silent, still. Flames reach up, blue and fire brown. My father took a coach class flight alone to Philadelphia, carrying a box wrapped in baker's twine. My mother's ashes, an angel food cake. The lake place we rented after mother was gone had no-see-ums that crawled through screens and high humidity between bays and stands of pine. Mother was long ago. Emily was only recent. Her warm eyes regarded me with directness, curiosity, a slow blink, saying, I trust you enough to close my eyes and open them again to you. We keep her ashes and her plaster paw print on the bookshelf in the bedroom. This poem was perfected in Craig Cotter's class. Craig's with us today. He's a marvelous Los Angeles poet and master teacher. It's called Wabash Banner Blue. Wabash Banner Blue is the name of a famous old train. And after I sent him the first draft of this, Craig sent me immediately a link to a photograph of the Wabash Banner Blue. This is my Halloween poem. A night of trees and winds, mangled sparrows, a dreamless sleep. A shutter opens, nursing in brumal air, moans of the slowing Wabash train, a stretch of Pullman cars. The house cracks, all is weightless, distant breathing. Out my window, coiled on the lawn, a behemoth with a witch's purse, a sack of stunned blood in a thicket. I must not stir, I must not look, I must not wander on this night. Damn the ones who taught me if I should die before I wake. To alarm the daemon, I clap like a blowout, sing arias, scuttle down the stairs to the steak knife drawer, careful not to rouse the creature's eye. I flee the house. At the edge of the wood, a skeleton rises, shrieking, Emergo! Skeletons don't scare me. I sniff for meat. Bullets don't scare me. I survived one from my mother's breast, one from my brother's kidneys, one from my father's heart. They will aid me now. I scale the cemetery wall. At my father's grave, I kick aside a clump of grass, and in the ground, on a Bible-sized stone, my stepmother's name, her oblivion, her coffee cup reeking of whiskey, all the good cooking and car rides. I didn't save her jewelry. I sold it for blow. My father died on his stair lift, a copy of The Raven in his lap. I pulled him down, laid him out, and breathed into his blue mouth. Nothing but the sound of soup inside him. I want to hear his voice, his South Chicago twang, the word car as hard as ore. I want to sleep in his bed. He might call at a late hour. My mother's grave, surrounded by old stones of family I never knew. I see her, the vividness of her, bubbles of mercury, the green flash. A cavernous scream slashes the air. Behemoth, on the graveyard floor, pulses its stunted wings. If fate rips me like a leaf, I have made arrangements with my family. In that final blaring moment, throttled by monster death, my mind will make myth, and I will see them all again. They will gather in a sleeping car aboard the Wabash Banner Blue. Gingerly pull closed my compartment door. My fear of monsters and the dark, no more. So we are reaching the end of our moment. I want to read one more poem called Dance Like a Man. Last evening, my dog waltzed with me, tiny paws in satin skeletine gloves, belly to the rug, moving like a cloud passing over spring wheat, eyes upon me, a centurion curtsying before his Caesar. We spin like orb-weaved spiders, married to the moon, a metronomic rhythm without surcease, tick, tick, tick of icicles melting in spring. Other breeds gather with mistresses for rehabilitation in a ranch-like setting or a simple trip to the grocery. My dog, sanguinic as a giggling child, is clever, lively, courageous. For a moment he looks at me like he's eaten something odd. Then prances with the rage of a firestorm, paw over paw, ears tossed left and right, a surf king shaking his dreadlocks. While other breeds wallow phlegmatic with no love for a ball, my Charlie King of toys will not let me stop. I grow dizzy with ecstasy. He perseveres. I, a tiger, he will turn to butter as I rumba round and round. Can he hear what I think? Does he know my joy? Or is this dog versus man in a contest of who can outwhirl the other? This is arm-waving, head-tossed back, Adam's apple bobbing bliss on the floor. Is he rubbing his balls on the carpet? I'll have to spray it down. Nah, let it go. Charlie twists, sachets, jives, and boogies. I try and catch up with this wizard of foot, skip, jitter who does not think, not now. He is no runaway dog on a cattle drive, no dingy old yeller in a farm field unasked. He is immortal, conus domesticus, hustling, capering, careening, as long or longer than I can dance like a man. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. You know what? I'm going to come back for just a second. Thank you so much, Bill. That was so powerful. The words are so powerful, and your performance is so powerful. Always incredible. I feel like we went on a bunch of journeys together tonight from our living rooms, which makes it just a little more elevated even. So I want everyone to unmute for a minute so we can give Bill a well-deserved round of applause right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will tell you, you have so many wonderful comments on the chat there, and I'll make sure that you get to see them all. But we are going to have a Q&A right now. If anyone wants to come on video, you can jump right in, or you can write in the chat, and I'll read them to you, Bill. Craig was also saying that he, of course, would like a one more poem. If you'd like, you're always welcome to read.
I do have one more poem.
Bravo.
This is called "To See My Father Fall."
Okay.
His navy desk jacket smells of Hava-Tampa cigars and sweat. Rows of rainbow battle ribbons line his breast pocket from a war he's never talked about. We cross Minnehaha Creek on a narrow iron walk bridge, soggy ice chunks underfoot. Asphalt roads are buckling. Come April, our street will look like a cracked moon. Squirrels dart, birds are silent. They've got a warming house where we put on our skates, right? My father has never ice skated. What's to know, he says. He's not reluctant, a welded man with dynamic range and style like nobility. He doesn't need to show me his medals. Fire hoses ice up Lyndhurst Field wide as a lake. Skaters carve and pump and spin. My dad takes mincing steps, jerks and lurches like a marionette with a stuck string. My captain, my protector, is now my embarrassment. Twisting and teetering, his mouth biting the air, my father's feet wrench out from under him and he flops. He is a gorilla on an iceberg, one eye closed like he was socked in a bar fight. Man down, call for backup, he huffs in his Chicago twang. Nobody's looking. I could help him. Instead, I pivot on the ice and dance away. So the great LA poet Alexis Fancher is on with us, and we went around and around in that poem for a long time. She runs a wonderful service for poets called submatcentral.com, where she looks at your poems and helps you submit them. Alexis, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for reading another one too, Bill.
That's it. That's it. I swear. I haven't run out, but that's it.
I got you. No, it's wonderful. And if anyone wants to jump in with their questions, their comments, or again in the chat, feel free. Welcome it.
Thanks, Bill. Beautiful reading. I wish we were all here for a book signing afterwards.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Thank you.
It's really good news. You have a new book coming out next year. What was the press again?
It's Finishing Line Press in Georgetown, Kentucky.
Very good.
And I did a blind submission. It wasn't a contest. I sent it out in January. In July, I got an email, which I almost deleted because they all start with, thank you so much for sending your poems. And I literally almost deleted it on my smartphone. And but they put up, it's a chapbook. I think it'll probably be 34 pages long, but hey.
It's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Looking
Comes out in May. At first I thought May, but let's put it off for a couple of years. But I heard a New York Times reporter on the New York Times podcast say that perhaps by April or May, we'll be putting our arms out at CVS and Walgreens for the vaccine. So, hey, maybe there will be a book signing.
And then Bill, Alexis Fancher said, thanks for the shout out. I love the poem, Bill, so fine.
Thanks, Alexis.
And then we have a comment from Joel Bellman. Joel says, beautiful work. My father, who taught Walt Whitman and revered his work, would have loved yours. I wish he had lived to hear it.
Joel, so good to see you.
And then Linda Kay says, you rock, Bill.
Thanks, Linda. Back at you.
And of course, so many wonderful comments in here. Make sure you get this chat afterwards. I mean, people are just hanging on every word. There's lots of quotes in there from parts that they particularly enjoyed.
Cool. Thank you.
Anyone
else want to jump in?
Well, Caitlin, thank you so much for hosting in the Whitman birthplaces. Just so important. It's where all of this poetry started, and it's wonderful that you can keep things alive by doing live readings, especially in this time when we all can't get together in person. But to come from the Whitman birthplace is a special honor and treat, and made my day. So thank you.
Great, Craig.
Thank you so much, Craig. And yes, we love doing that. We love being able to share poets' voices in this whole new way. Of course, we miss having people, on our stage. And there is just such a great quality of the birthplace itself because it's the house that's been there for so long that Whitman's father built. But at the same time, we are able to have so many more events from people joining us from faraway places like Los Angeles. So, we're making it work. We're making lemonade. So we're just so glad that we're able to do that and that we're meeting so many new people. And you're a poet as well, right, Craig?
D.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I study with Craig at Pasadena City College.
We
I
study
have-
from each other.
I have full confidence in the resumption of the class on Zoom, Craig. I want you to know that.
Thank you. It'll be interesting.
Hey, John.
I just want to make it a shout out. I don't know if it can be heard or not, but thank you, Bill. You have a way of making the ordinary world magical, which somehow makes me feel I'm going to live 15 years longer, even if I don't live a day longer, because what you do, you widen and deepen my world. And you do it with such brilliant specificities. It's just ingenious. So thank you.
Thank you, buddy. John and I have writing dates on the phone. We'll talk for 2 minutes. How you doing? Fine. Okay. What are you working on? Okay. Talk to you in 2 hours. And then we call back in 2 hours. And I will have written, 75 to 100 words. John will have written 600 to 700 magical, wild, incredible words, finishing a novel when I finish a poem. And we duke it out every Friday via Pacific Bell Telephone Company.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bill.
Bill, number one, it's a privilege knowing you, and it has been a joy listening to you. I love your voice. I love your images. You are a wonderful poet. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks, Ellie. I really appreciate it. Ellie and I met many years ago. I often give her a ride home from the great Jack Grapes class. Jack Grapes, who is known as one of the great stand-up poets. I just heard the definition of what a stand-up poet is. It bridges the confessional poets in the 40s and 50s with the slam poets in the 70s and 80s. And I thought, well, where did that come from? But that's what they say he is. Jack Grapes, one of the great stand-up poets.
And wasn't his great journal on the bus that he ran for many years?
Yeah, he did. That's right. Yeah. From Ken Kesey, either you're on the bus or off the bus.
I missed that journal. It was one. He did great work with it.
Yeah. Actually, it's been revived. It's kind of self-publishing. I think you pay $50 a page or something like that. But he handed it off to Bambaz, like B-A-M, Mary, B-A-Z, Bambaz Press, two people who put it out every now and again. But it's essentially self-publishing. But you give them $50 a page, you're in. Unlike the way he did it as a regular curated literary journal for so many years.
Anyone else want to jump in?
Hi, Linda Kay. Linda
Bravo.
Kay, I hope you recognize the poem. I didn't say 20 years later. Linda's started.
The first one.
Just cast a poetry musical with I don't know, 6 or 8 of us, including herself, poets. And that was, I think the last time we met was like March 7th. And we were about to go into rehearsals in Highland Park, right? We'll be back. We'll be back.
I hope so.
And Linda, you take submissions at
for Poets Place. It's an online poetry column in the LA Art News.
Poets Place.
Poets Place is www.lartnews.com, and you drop down in the menu to Poets Place. And I've been posting a column there since January this year. And
Cool.
open for submissions, you guys. LindaKpoetry.com, just, or whatever my email, LindaKpoetry at iCloud. And send me pieces. I'll publish anything. I've been reaching out to you, Bill. I haven't heard from you. Oh God, I would love to have one of your pieces on the column. It's so rad.
I've been preparing for this reading. Well, I got your email. I got your email last weekend. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah,
I went on and clicked on it.
Please submit, Bill. Oh my God, your work, your writing is so phenomenal. I love your work. It's just so inspiring. I'm like, oh my God, if only. If only. Oh, just beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I would like if everyone could unmute just one more time for another well-deserved round of applause.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Yay!
Thank you so much for joining us, Bill. Amazing. I'm so glad that we got to hear a full-length reading with you this time. Incredible.
So shout out to Caitlin Shea, ladies and gentlemen. Caitlin Shea, whose artwork is over her left shoulder,
All
and
right.
who just went full time at the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association, creating these
Wow.
events. So
Bravo.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor. Really, an honor.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Yes, I get to share contemporary poets' voices every week. I mean, what could be better, honestly? So thank you, Bill. I really appreciate that. I'm going to post the links one more time. And like Bill was saying, his book will be coming out. So make sure you follow him on social media so that you can check out the book in May. Everything goes according to plan. All right, I'm going to post that one more time. Thank you all for joining us too. It's so nice. It's so wonderful to have this connection with people every week. So I hope that you join us again. And have a wonderful almost weekend.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Nice to see you, Bill. Thanks again.
Greg. See you Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you
Thank
soon,
you, everybody.
Bill. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Say goodnight, Mary.
Good night, Mary.